His party also paid tribute to King Goodwill Zwelithini kaBhekuzulu earlier this morning in KwaNongoma.
This really is a sad day to all of us. The IFP leadership is coming to pay its tribute to His Majesty, to convey our condolences and the condolences of His Excellency Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, because he is part of us and he is also part of the royal family. The departure of His Majesty leaves the country and the Zulu nation naked. We are at the weakest point. His Majesty the King was an exemplary leader. He promoted the culture of Africanness, the culture of the Zulu nation. He promoted the values of African people. He was a champion of defending women and children. He was in the forefront in the fight against gender-based violence. He was a champion of education. He was a champion of encouraging people to rely on their hands, cultivating land to produce food that can support them on a daily basis. His Majesty the King, he did not fold his hands during the fight against the pandemic COVID-19. He was in the forefront in fighting against the spread of this pandemic, in encouraging people to comply with the health protocol. We mourn the departure of His Majesty. We pray that God help the royal family during this difficult time to make the family of His Majesty united after the whole situation emerge as one family to provide leadership in the Zulu Kingdom.
But can you speak to us in terms of the political parties? As a political party, we know that the King had was one person that he would go to discuss when there were challenges, political issues, political instability. What does this loss mean for yourself as a leader of a political party?
The departure of His Majesty the King is mourned in every aspect. As a political party, the IFP knows the role His Majesty played. His Majesty was in the forefront even during the times of violence in preaching unity. His Majesty believed in coexistence. His Majesty never took side of one political party against other political party. All the political parties in South Africa and in KwaZulu-Natal, we knew that when we experience difficult times, His Majesty is going to be the center. He's going to be in the middle in trying to bring everybody to see with one eye and move forward. That is why the IFP mourns the departure of His Majesty the King.
All right, you're seeing live visuals on your left-hand side of the screen. It is the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Mashatile and Zikalala. Let's put up full screen. Let's go there now live.
Well, thanks very much, Blaine. And we're still, of course, outside KwaKhetho Mthandayo Palace, where you see live in your visuals the delegation that was led by the Premier of the province, Mashatile and Zikalala, including the former President Jacob Zuma and several ministers, national ministers, namely the Minister of Police, Begicele, the Minister of Cooperative Governance, Dr. I Dlamini-Zuma, the ANC's Treasurer General, Mr. Paul Mashatile, also also part of the delegation, and who are here today to come and pay their tribute to the royal family. What is happening at the moment and now is that they have spent time with the members of the royal family inside since arriving this morning. We understand that there was a short service. Thereafter, then there was an engagement between the government delegation and members of the royal family. And at the moment now, in terms of what we understand is procedures, once they are done inside, they then have come out to this marquee where they are greeting the traditional leaders who have been waiting outside here since this morning. We understand that it is culture, that it is part of culture that they indeed must come out and greet the traditional leaders. Thereafter, they will then come through to address the members of the media. And we understand that it is going to be the former President Jacob Zuma who will be speaking to us, as well as the Premier of the province, Mashatile and Zikalala. Of course, this delegation, as we know, that the government of KwaZulu-Natal has been working very closely with the royal family in terms of the preparations for the planting of His Majesty King Goodwill Zwelithini. There's been a lot of work that has been taking place behind the scenes. The government has said that it is going to support the royal family in any way that they wish. And of course, very importantly, today is also a sad day for the government, in the sense that the King played a very, very key role, particularly here in KwaZulu-Natal, having worked very closely over the years with the government, was part of the government's programs, and namely even the traditional ceremonies that were held at Enyokeni Royal Palace and a few of the other palaces. The provincial government was always part of those ceremonies, and I can name the reed dance, I can name Mkosi Wogweshwama, the male circumcision. These are just some of the traditions that the government was very, very closely involved in. I'm going to try and see if we can move a little bit closer now to the marquee plane. I'm going to be out of shot now. We do have another camera as I try to move our mic a little bit closer to... Let me try to move close and let's see. Understand now that the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Mashatile and Zikalala, is addressing.
Yeah, so we do apologize as Ayanda moves towards where the Premier Mashatile and Zikalala is to get that audio there. I think it's important to listen in terms of what the Premier is saying. So what do we know at this stage in terms of what we heard from Mangosuthu Buthelezi a little earlier on, talking to Ayanda Mhlongo, saying that the planting will take place. The King will be planted on Wednesday night, and a memorial service will then be held on Thursday. The latest that we have is that the members of the AmaZulu royal family will be addressing the media today at 4 o'clock. So we will wait and hear in terms of what is said there. We will no doubt endeavor to bring that to you live. Former President Jacob Zuma, in your shot, do we have audio on this control room? Let's listen in.
No, I'm not allowed to come.
right, we are trying to get you the audio of former President Jacob Zuma there. We will try and do our best in order to get you that audio and listen in to what the former president has said. We're learning much more in terms of the culture, the traditions, the rituals that is being observed when the king will be planted on Wednesday night by males. And also a memorial service will then be held on Thursday. So certain languages or certain terms that we use, very important indeed. I guess this bowing out of the king allows us to learn more as a nation in terms of this rich culture of the AmaZulu nation. So we do know that at 4 p.m., the members of the AmaZulu royal family will be addressing the media. We will try to bring that to you live. Something that was spoken about earlier on, Ayanda was engaging with Blessed Gwala from the IFP, talking about why we don't say that the king has died. He referred to the king as not an ordinary person. He said that the king is like an angel who is sent down to earth to rule for a certain period of time. So it is wrong to say that the king has died because angels don't die. So it's important to understand the context in terms of the planting of King Goodwill Zwelithini kaBhekuzulu, the former president. In your shot there, live visuals from KwaNongoma. Let's listen in.
Obumthunzi wethu okuqasha uma libalele noma lina siqashe phambi kwawo sithola ukuthokomala. Izwe lonke likhala kanye nathi ngoba ubephakamisa amaphiko kuwo wonke umuntu engekho amcasile futhi enothando ongalufuna olubona usambuka nje ukuthi lenkosi inothando, lesilo sinothando, efuna ukuthula, efuna ukuhloniphana, usenzelela ukukhulu, basibuyisele emasikeni ethu nokuhlonipha kwethu nokuziphatha kwethu. Kwenza ukuthi wonke umuntu amthokozele uma embona, azi ukuthi uma sekukhona isilo samabandla sengiphephile. Silahlekelwe sonke emzukazulu. Nina bakaPhunga noMageba. Kodwa kukho ebesingakusho uma umdali sethatha isinqumo ngesilo sethu. Kunzima ukuthi le ndaba singayixoxa sithi ayixoxeki. Uma usucabanga ukuthi uzothi ufike la esigodlweni ungasiboni isilo, uyobusayaphi pho? Kodwa ke sithe sizobhonga emswaneni sonke nina besilo, siyazi ukuthi inhliziyo zenu ziyopha, zibuhlungu. Kodwa sizobhonga ukuthi ngoba uNkulunkulu senzile asikwemukele, silale ngenxeba sonke noma libuhlungu. Simdedele ongangezwe lakhe, ahambe kahle, angahambe eqalaza ngemumva ngoba ezwa ukuthi kunabe nenhliziyo ezihlungu kakhulu. Akhululeke aye kokhokho bakhe nomkhulu bakhe. Ngikusho lokho ngoba lesenzo sehlela sona isendlo esincane sizofuna isizwe siqine sibeqotho nokuzwana kukhule njengoba behlale esishumayeza ngakho. Kungabi khona ukudonsa nokungazwana, kungabi khona sokuxoxa singakwazi ukuvumelana ngakho. noma kulukhuni kodwa sithole indlela yokuyiqaqa leyo nkinga sizwane ukuze naye simkhulule ukuthi mayifika kwabadala abike kahle ikakhulu ke ebantwaneni izobaluleka lento ukubekezelelana nokulalelana nokuvumelana isilo besingazwisa nje ukufudumala kuphela lapha endlunkulu sonke lapha esikhona besikuza ukufudumala uma ekhuluma besimlalela ngoba noma yinini mayikhuluma ufunda lukhulu kuyena efundisa ebekezela angithembe nje ukuthi sonke sifundile kuyena siyosebenzisa ulwazi abesinika lona ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi isizwe sihlale sihlangene uma ke sibhonga kanye nani emswaneni siyafisa nathi ukusho ukuthi asihambe kahle isilo silale kahle siphumule isizwe usiphathe kahle akukho lapha esikhala khona bafundisa ngisho thina sibancane ukuthi izwe liphathwa kanjani lale ngenxeba ke nina besilo njengoba undunankulu eseshilo azisa ithimba leli sihamba nalo liyakutshena nje ukuthi isilo besingakhethi ukuthi kuhulumeni nokuthi kuliphi iqembu belingakhethi wonke umuntu belingana besize sisho sithi noma kuliphi iqembu nalelo qembu lami akukho ngenelo lami ngoba lila lapho engibusa khona ngiyethemba ukuthi ekugcineni uma inhliziyo sezihlile siyolithola ithuba lokusibonga isilo sibonge umsebenzi eliwenzile phakathi kwesizwe sikhona ke njengabaphuma kuhulumeni nathi nje singasekho kuhulumeni sesithatha umhlala phansi sidle upoyinandi uma kukhona okuyizingqinamba ningenqeni nina besilo ukuza kuthini uzoda sinibambise nakho mhlawumbe kuyesinda la ngoba sifisa ukuthi konke kuhambe ngokuthula ningenqenike nabakwethu sizakhamuzi abanye ke mhlawumbe basaxakekile bagijima behla benyuka ngohulumeni thina sesihlala phansi sesithamela ilanga nje maliphuma sihlale ngapha kwendlu uma seliyoshona sihlale ngapha kwendlu limnandi kabi la ningenqenike ukuthi ake siwalandela amadoda ngoba indlunkulu ikhanda lethu uma kuyikhanda kungathiwa aliphilile libhlungu wonke umzimba uyalimala benzela nje ukuthi uma nithola ukuthi engathi kulukhuni la ningenqeni nina bakaphunga amageba nina esilo samabandla ilokho nje besithi asikwethule inina sibonge emswaneni njengoba nani ngibonge emswaneni niqine niqinisise niqhubeke nisihole isizwe njengoba kade nisihole nina besilo ngiyabonga
sibonge mhlambe ukuhlonipha ngokuphelele siyocela ukuthi thina besilisa sisukume sikhuleke esilweni ngokuyikho nangokujwayelekile wena wendlovu wena wendlovu bayede hlangana moya ngazi ndaba noma mhlambe khona ozobeka kubantwana ngingashiyela
egameni labantwana nasegameni losuthu ngedlulisa amagama okunamukela ngingamukela baba Msholozi bathi bamsekliniki ngamsekliniki emkhwenyana ngamukele ukhabazela ngamukele mama Dlamini-Zuma ngamukele ubaba Mashatile ngamukele Zikalala ukupolisi baba uMaMkhulu ubaba nabanye engababonile ezengingabazi ngamukele-ke nezikhulu zeqembu ngokweyikhundla zabo ngokwehlukana bawethu egameni labantwana nasegameni lesizulu angisho nje Mthuluzi Mtavu ithemba likulahla besithembile uma undunankulu wesizwe umntwana waphinde angene ethi hhayi uyathembisa ningethuki amaphaphu phansi uzokathi nje uhlala izuwana sethembe impela hhayi nakanjani ngoba besehlale isikhathi eside ongavalile nokho sekuthi-ke ngoLwesihlanu wasevele seqhuma ibhomu bakwethu kuvele kwathi libalele linjena kwavele kwawilanga kwamnyama sisebumnyameni ukushiwa ngomgawe ezwelayo Nkosi yami kabazela egameni labantwana angiboni imizamo eziwe sizanywa ukuhlenga impilo yomgawe ezwelayo siyazi sonke ukuthi sifika lapha emhlabeni uNkulunkulu abesibekele izifundo sesoyihlala emhlabeni kuyabonga ngoba kusifundi ukuthi kodwa-ke ngoba kuphuma ngaphezulu ngokwenza besithanda endaweni njengoba thina isilo sethu besizijengekhukukazi besithukamela wonke amadlela ngeke sibalele ukuhlangwezezezwe usubalile Msholozi nami futhi ngokuchaza nami lokho kunjengoba kube uqale wonke engavele emagqamela ungahlonipha oqhubela kwethu umuntu ofonelwe ubasosizini kodwa nakho ukusebenzisa ekunaleshikani ekungabovinjani kuzalakonsebenza kuyaduduzela abantu siyabonga lokhu sinalokukulasosini siyajabula ukuthi ngokhona benu isiniseko babamsolozi sokuba ukumemzati uzoba nathi siyakuthanda zikela ngoba osile usebenzisane ngokukhulu ukulela ngokumele kwethu abafundane ngokumele nakanzindawo njengoba otengasesekhala
Right, live visuals from KwaNongoma in KwaZulu-Natal. In your shot, you see the former President Jacob Zuma there, the current Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Mashatile and Zikalala, and if I see correctly, there it is Minister I Dlamini-Zuma as well, all seated there. We heard from the former President Jacob Zuma saying that when the king is planted, he must be at peace. He also went on to say that AmaZulu nation must continue to stand together. The nation must stand strong together. He said that we need to remember everything the king has done, and we need to be able to talk to each other, both as youth and as adults. He went on to say that the king was always taking care of people. He said the king was committed to the youth. He always listened to the youth, what they had to say, their issues. And he said he was sending his condolences to the family and to the nation at large. My visuals from KwaNongoma in KwaZulu-Natal. What we know so far is that the king will be planted on Wednesday night by male members. And we were told that a memorial service, what is being referred to as a memorial service, will be held on Thursday. So we will get the very latest from I Dlamini-Zuma, who's live for us there as well. We're having a bit of an audio issue there to try and get the very latest of what is happening. There are a number of members of the KwaZulu-Natal government are there to pay tribute as well to the late king, or the king that has bowed out. Remember, language is always important here in terms of the terms that we as broadcasters use. We are learning more and more about that. Why do we say it's bowed out? We heard from Blessed Gwala from the IFP describing the king as not an ordinary person, but someone who is seen as an angel, who was sent down to earth to rule for a period of time. And so that we can't say that the king has died, because angels don't die. So he went on to talk about the various protocols as well, the rituals, the customs, traditions that are related to the planting of the king and what happens thereafter. So we do know at this stage that that will happen, the planting will happen on Wednesday night. And then on Thursday, what is being referred to as a memorial service. We heard from the IFP leader, Tlhabisa, earlier on, describing the king as an exemplary leader. He promoted the values of the African people, he said, and he was a champion of education. That message is coming through strongly from the various people that we spoke to this morning. I am they're live speaking to a number of people. One of them is the praise singer of the king. We're going to hear much more from him in a short while. But earlier, just to give you some context, let's just maybe bring in this interview to help with what we're currently seeing as well. I spoke to cultural and heritage expert, Professor Somadoda Fakeni. Take a listen.
There are well-established traditions as to how leaders, traditional leaders, in each one of the cultural community would be sent off once he or she has passed on. And some of these traditions in the past are different from what we're seeing today. For example, in the past, you used to have a king or a royal leader being buried with some of his, traditional garments, the cattle or livestock, and some of, the offerings that people believe that along the way the leader would go with. And that was also accompanied in the past in some...
Come out of that interview with Professor Fakeni. We'll try to replay it a little later on. I want to take you back to